For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The views, opinions, or advice offered by this show's host do not necessarily reflect those of News Talk 780 KOH or its parent company, Cumulus Media. This is Bosma On Business with award-winning entrepreneur Mike Bosma, sponsored by Keystone CPAs. We're getting Northern Nevada back to business.
Good morning, business owners. It's Mike Bosma, your business-savvy CPA company from the cold and chilly Arctic tundra of Reno, Nevada. Had a little bit of weather. If you missed last week's installment of Bosma On Business, the only way you're going to listen to it is on KQH.com or BosmaOnBusiness.com because of a little snafu here in the station. You got canned content for this hour that, of course, each and every Saturday give you 60 minutes of action-packed business adventure. And I guess it was a little dicey in the station last week. But, 13 years doing this, it's the first mishap. So it's a pretty good track record. I guess unlucky 13. Or lucky 13 if you're Brock Purdy or Dan Marino. But, one of the things that we try and do is get business owners a little bit more savvy about all things business. Today, no different. On the show, Jamie Palmer, he's a property manager as I'm lamenting the frozen Arctic tundra of Reno, Nevada, although, most of the snow's melted. Then you got more coming. Jamie's in Calgary, Canada, who says it's 10 degrees negative Fahrenheit. Holy smokes. Jamie, welcome to Bosma On Business.
Thank you for having me.
So we start this thing off, Jamie, with a little bit about you. You're a property manager. How'd you talk to me about your business and how you got into that racket?
Yeah, absolutely. So Power Properties was started in 1980 by my father. And I went to university and graduated with a double major in chemistry and human biology, which I clearly use daily. And when I graduated, my father said, "Oh, have you ever thought of being a realtor?" And to be honest, I hadn't at all, ever. I was looking at pharmaceutical sales, that kind of track. But then I thought about it and said, pharmaceutical sales, you get like 2 weeks vacation a year. My parents spend months away at a time. Maybe I should look into this. And so I started working at Power Properties, and at the time my father was 60. So the plan was when he turned 65, I would buy the company from him and carry forward. Didn't quite go according to plan. 5 years in, he said, "You ready to buy it?" I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "I'm not ready to sell." And another year went by, and he says, are you ready to buy it? I said, "Yeah, absolutely." He said, "I'm still not ready to sell." This carried on for 8 years. At which point we finally had a come to Jesus moment where he realized that at 68, he didn't have that many years left, and he definitely didn't have that many good years left. And so at that point, his lawyer, my lawyer, his accountant, my accountant hammered a deal out, and we got her done, and haven't looked back since. So
yeah, trying to get Pops to hang up the shingle, it makes it a little dicey as you're doing those negotiations around Thanksgiving table.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, how many years ago was that?
So I ultimately purchased it in 2011.
Okay.
So I've been running it for 13 years now.
So,
and even
go ahead.
Even prior to that, I was running it. He was effectively retired, but it was really, I think, for a lot of business owners, it's their identity. Mm-hmm. And so he was having a really hard time letting go of, well, if he wasn't the owner of Power Properties, what was he? And it just took a little nudging to get there.
I got you. Just a gentle foot to the backside. Dad, I love you. But so now, is he still involved with the business at all?
No, and right from, that was definitely a blessing, is right from the purchase date, he stepped aside fully. Okay. So, yeah.
All right. So 13 years ago, now you're a large property management company. Is it commercial, residential? What's your genre?
Primarily residential. We manage about $250 million worth of rental property, primarily single-family homes, small apartments, that kind of that kind of property, all in Calgary and the surrounding area. So that translates to about 600 rental units.
Okay, so about 600 rental units, and are any of these that you own, or are these all other people's stuff?
Yeah, definitely. My family and I, we definitely own a number of units, but the vast majority would be other people's property.
There you go. Just like other people's money, always better to manage
Exactly.
other people's property. And how is the company? Has it grown, shrunken?
Yeah, actually, it's been consistent growth, and I mean that would definitely be something. For those listeners that are working in a family business and you've got a transition plan in place. Something I learned the hard way was don't grow the business until you own it.
Otherwise, you're paying the seller for the incremental growth, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, ideally set an exit plan right at the beginning in terms of price, or maybe, if you're talking multiples, maybe the increase in value from when you are working there to when you take over, maybe not the same multiple. Because, I basically helped grow the business and then paid more for it. Which
but I guess it was a friendly transaction. I mean, normally there'd be, some kind of discount there. Like, how did you determine what the company was worth?
We hired an independent appraiser. I have an older brother and sister. They're not at all involved in the business at all, but just in the notion of fairness, I paid full market value for the company. There was no friends and family discount at that stage. So, yeah.
Oh, well, there you have it. See, I don't know, Jamie. It seemed like you'd want to, come on, Pops, we're not having to hire a broker. Just, a little love, to carry the torch.
My father was very business is business, family's family. They're very separate. So yeah, there was definitely no discount at all.
Oh, okay. And how'd you end up financing it or paying for it?
I mean, he did give me a break there, but in the sense of it was seller financed. But I find most small business acquisitions, there's a lot of seller financing to begin with. So there was still interest to be paid and everything else. So yeah, but definitely it was seller financed.
Yeah, and that's where it's interesting. Different countries, different tax rules. But if you were in the United States, Jamie, I would be talking to you about, well, it's a friendly transition. I think I can make that very tax efficient for everybody. Right. So let's just be smart about it, and I'll break out my Excel sheet and kind of walk people through the math. Fine.
Well, and that's what we did. We used tax lawyers and tax accountants to make it as tax efficient as possible.
Gotcha.
That was definitely part of that transition.
Cool. And, and I guess that's where, now I work with a number of different property management companies. Some are big, they're the number one customer of their clients or of their vendors, I should say. They have handymen, plumbers, electricians. But then some, they get that idea. Why are we paying these guys so much when they bring it in-house? So do you have any employees or do you outsource it all?
We do have employees, mostly administrative, and then all our property managers they're considered independent contractors in Canada, so much like a realtor, and they get a percentage of the rent as their compensation. In terms of trades and that kind of thing, we do outsource it all. We want to just focus on doing one thing really, really well. That's managing the property, and I don't know anything, I don't want to learn about running a plumbing company or an electrician or anything like that. So yeah, just really focused on creating a system for the property managers that they can grow and grow their income.
Sure.
Do well there.
Okay. And how many property managers do you have working for you?
There's 11 property managers. Okay. Some of them have as few as 30 properties. Others have 130. So it just depends how big a portfolio they want to manage.
How hard they want to work. How much money do you want to make?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Well, and we set up tiers. So if they have 0 to 50 properties, they get a certain percentage of rent. If they have 50 to 99, they get a bigger percentage, and if they have over 100, they get the highest percentage possible. So it's really in their own interest to grow their portfolios, but some may or may not want to.
Oh, I got you. We only want to work so hard, Jamie. It's just,
that's right.
Especially when it's -10 Fahrenheit. No, I don't want to have to go to knock on somebody's door to collect rent. Yeah, if it's that cold outside. So now you've owned the business for 13 years. What is your exit strategy?
Really, just continue to grow the company. I'm only 45, so I think I've got a few more years.
You got another 20, 30 years, according to your dad's calculator.
That's right. We have a wonderful leadership team. So we use EOS or Traction as a business operating system, and so our integrator, what most companies would call like a general manager, is doing a fantastic job, just absolutely fabulous, of running the day-to-day operations and making sure everybody's on track and where they should be. We've got great marketing director and an operations director. So all those people see to the day-to-day, which leaves me free to try and think of bigger ideas and different opportunities.
Okay. Any ideas of expanding beyond Calgary?
Absolutely. Yeah. We actually completely restructured the company in the last year to allow for that. Prior to that, all our property managers were employees, and it was very siloed work, and it would have been difficult. With our new structure, it allows us to expand into numerous different markets. Our licensing in Canada, in Alberta, our license is just good for our one province. So it'll take us a while to expand beyond our province, but we can expand throughout the province, and we're actually working on that right now. That's one of our quarterly goals, to expand into another city by the end of April.
What about buying another property management practice, rather than growing it organically? It is the easiest way to grow, Jamie.
I would love to learn more about that. Actually, that's definitely a solid acquisition, a solid strategy for growth. Yeah, and definitely with the age of some people, in terms of baby boomers aging out of their companies, there's probably a lot of opportunity for that.
No, and that's it, right? That's, as I'm a CPA and real estate agent and business broker. So it's just, I'm always looking for the angle, Jamie. But you're like, if you want to expand and you kind of get that property managers already in place with properties they're currently renting. It's just an easier way to grow it, right? Because you have that installed base, and you're 100% right. There's people out there that probably work for a big property management company and then spun off, and they took all their clients with them, and and they've got a nice little book of business, but it's hard to grow because they don't have a team, and you understand that, right? So you've got marketing people and accounting people, and then the property managers themselves, and it's like once you get that dialed in, especially if you're an EOS and getting that intel on kind of where you stand on any given day, then you're like, oh, okay, it's completely scalable, because you just basically adding a new province. It's just like adding a new agent. It's a little bit different in licensing land. So, but and by and large, you're just like Pops did for you. They'll probably, with some amount of down payment, they gladly just get their annuity as you pay that off over time. So that's just one way to scale business. But on the phone, Jamie Palmer from Power Properties in Calgary, Canada. When we come back, we're going to talk about maybe some of those expansion plans and how these types of businesses are bought and sold. We call it Bosma On Business, News Talk 780 KOH.
When you have sports mixed with your pop culture, along with humor and celebrity interviews, your earbuds are enjoying The Rich Eisen Show.
Kevin Millar, we're all paying rent in Ohtani's world, right?
And the Dodgers world. Game is healthy, game is good. And, I get asked a lot, is that good for baseball? Yeah, it's good for baseball. This is definitely the team to beat, because that should be your next correction, Richie, is this World Series a bust for the Dodgers and Dave Roberts?
Hell yeah. Search for The Rich Eisen Show on YouTube or wherever you listen.
Welcome back to Bosma On Business. Your host, Mike Bosma. On the phone, Jamie Palmer from Power Properties. Easy for me to say, a property manager in Calgary, Canada. And I guess that's where, as we talk about buying and selling businesses, buying a business is the easiest way to scale a business, hands down. You just got to find the right business to buy. That's what I was mentioning on the last segment. Of course, if you missed it and you want to go grab it, it's on kqh.com, the on-demand tab, right after the show. But that's where, Jamie, I'm curious, when you're buying the business from your dad, no discount provided.
Nope.
But he did, I'm thinking, how was 2011? How was the economy in Calgary in 2011? In the United States, it was not very good.
It was really good for property management, to be honest. So in the 2008-2009 financial crisis impacted the whole world, which meant selling properties wasn't great. So a lot of people who owned homes that needed to move but couldn't sell for what they owed or maybe what they wanted, they would hire us to rent out their home.
Okay.
And so there was actually a period of really rapid growth at that time. So yeah, it was a good time to be a property manager.
All right.
2011.
Yeah, because now I'm curious. So as banks were taking back properties, were they hiring you as well to manage these properties and get them sold off, or just people that were over their skis and wanted to get it rented?
Canada didn't experience the same kind of foreclosures that the U.S. had. Our banking system was a little more tightly regulated, which meant the lending risk wasn't as exposed. So we really didn't see that, particularly in Calgary. It just meant that people were, like I say, they maybe couldn't sell for what they paid or what they necessarily owed, but we didn't see a huge influx of bankruptcies and foreclosures.
Okay. So, and that's where, in the United States, it was a bit of a train wreck, generational wealth.
Lots of
evaporated.
opportunity.
Right. Well, right. If you have capital, right, then it's a great opportunity. At that time, people were thinking, what should I do? And I just say, keep your powder dry. So that way, when that opportunity presents itself, that you can move quickly. Having a pile of cash or line of credit, you can do all kinds of stuff, right? So, but I'm curious on the valuation side, like how are property management companies valued? Multiple of revenue, multiple of earnings. How does it all work?
Typically multiple of earnings. And in fact, in our particular case, we hired a business appraiser. They created a multiple and said that the company was worth X. And what was a little entertaining, and when I say I didn't get a friends and family discount or anything, the appraisal included the cash that the company held, and my father actually wanted the same price but wanted to take the cash. So
Dad, it doesn't work that way.
But that was, at that time I was maybe not as shrewd and not as good at negotiating, but I ended up taking that deal in exchange for the vendor financing. So, it definitely wasn't like a super sweet deal on the price.
Now, how long did it take you to pay for it?
10 years.
Okay. So you were a year debt free.
Yes.
Hallelujah. How did that feel?
It was bittersweet because the debt-free moment happened. The last payment happened during COVID, so it was really hard to celebrate. Like everything in Canada and Calgary was locked down, so you couldn't really. You want to throw a big party and do a little dance and everything, but it was kind of a yay kind of moment.
Kind of anticlimactic.
Anticlimactic.
Right. But and that's where, now I'm really curious. So from 2011 when you bought it to when you paid that note off 10 years later, how much had the business grown over that time?
When I bought it, we managed about 400 properties, 300 to 400 properties. And when I paid it off, we were closer to 700 properties.
Right.
So we scaled back a little bit in the last 2 years. Largely just from we lost one particular client.
Oh, right. So there's a bunch of properties, and the reason I mention it is this, Jamie. So, and that's where, whatever that price was that you bought that from your dad, even though he swiped the cash, right? It's probably now worth twice as much, or something 80%, 70% more than you bought it for. And that's what I think people miss is when oftentimes when you buy a business, it's been run usually the same way, usually sometimes antiquated systems, all the rest of it, right? So, and if you could just bring maybe a fresh approach at looking at it, like you transition your employees to independent contractors, so that way everybody's a little bit more eat what you kill, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. And you can make a lot more money by thinking about those things, when you buy that business. Now, for the benefit of our listeners, most of you are business owners. If you buy a business, the rule of thumb is don't change anything for a year if you can help it. Obviously, if it's on fire, put the fire out. But if it was on fire, you probably wouldn't have bought the business. But you have to learn through an operating cycle how the thing works. And that's why, Jamie, I'm curious, as you're talking, of your dad over a series of years about buying that business, how much, access did he give you, kind of behind the veil on the financials and operations and all that stuff?
Yeah, I was really fortunate. It was full transparency. As I say, in the last few years before he finally did agree to sell, I was effectively running the company. So I had a good sense of how it ran. I was a little bit at a disadvantage. As I mentioned, I don't have a business degree. I have a chemistry and biology degree. So accounting, things like that, that was not my first language. So I made sure to take some accounting courses and bone up on that kind of thing, but just really getting a strong grasp of numbers and how to use them and what levers to pull, that didn't come intuitively.
Gotcha. Well, and that's where, it's interesting. We hire people right out of university, and even accounting majors don't really have a good sense for accounting. They maybe know a debit and a credit. That's about it. So it really is a school of hard knocks. You got to, and there's about a 50% adherence rate, right? Or just a lot of people they'll never figure it out, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't know what you're going to do for a career. It's just not this. So just some people get it, some people not so much, and that's where when you're looking at buying a business, it's and as a business broker, right? This last weekend, it was stranded in. in San Jose, it's that big storm last weekend that blew through Reno. Well, we had a dance competition. Holy smokes, So and then lost a fuel injector, just outside of San Francisco. So the car's still stranded in California. So you have to pivot, right? As a business owner, you learn how to pivot. But I think that's where when you're buying a business and then determining, in fact, that was last week's installment, the one that got skipped on air, was about how, the different levers to value a business. So let's do this when we come back. Got Jamie Palmer on the phone from Power Properties. We're going to talk about those different attributes that'll grow and scale his property management business. It's Bosma On Business, News 780 KOH.
You met Lala Kent on Vanderpump Rules. Now Lala and her friends share everything on Give Them Lala.
I'm expecting my second child. Which is very, very amazing.
Congratulations.
To say. Feels
We're
that
all
way.
with child.
You can say she's pregnant, she's knocked up, anything except with child.
Oh, I love with child. I'm going to be saying it all the time. Yep. Excuse me.
Yes.
6 feet, I'm with child.
Watch what Lala is talking about on YouTube or search for Give Them Lala wherever you listen.
Welcome back to Bosma On Business. Your host, Mike Bosma. The bottom of the hour, we always give a little bit of a tax nugget. The one I've got for you is on March 15th. If you are doing any business outside the great state of Nevada, which pretty much everybody does, you need to think about making your pass-through entity election or PTE election because that'll allow you to deduct your state income tax you're paying on the business return rather than have it limited as a Schedule A itemized deduction. So you got to make that payment. The extension payment is due on March 15th. So those business returns, 1120Ss, 1065s, they're due March 15th. But the one that everybody misses is, oh, shucky darns, I should have paid my state tax. And you don't want to miss that one. So if you owe, make sure you get that one covered. Of course, if you need some help, 775-786-4900, mbosma at keystone.cpa. We will make sure you've got your assets covered. That's it. We'll cover your assets. A little tongue-in-cheek there. I feel like I'm dragging here, Neil. Anyway, so Without further ado, Jamie Palmer, Power Properties. Jamie, you mentioned you did an EOS or Entrepreneur's Operating System implementation based on Gino Wickman's book, Traction. How did why did you decide to go EOS?
Yeah, so I'm part of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and another member had recommended that. And I read the book and instantly said, yeah, this is for me. It was just, it made sense in terms of, it was a very actionable book. A lot of business books are what I would call ethereal. Right. Lots of great theory, lots of great concepts, but how to actually do it? Whereas Traction just spelled it out step by step. This is how you do it. So we actually implemented Traction in 2017. And we thought we were doing a pretty good job of it. But actually just this past year, as part of our restructuring, we hired a EOS implementer, a professional implementer, and night and day. Like, we thought we were doing pretty good, but he's just taken us that much further and it really helped our leadership team grow personally and take on challenges and roles that maybe they wouldn't have been able to prior.
Right. Yeah. And what are the metrics that you have your KPIs set up on?
Yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward: revenue, profit, and then for us, our key metric is what we call active leases. So it's the number of properties that have tenants in place, and just those are the ones that we get paid on.
Right.
So those are our core ones. Operationally, we're always looking at, okay, how many new clients did our property managers bring on? How many properties did they get rented? So we have a really nice scoreboard that you can just take one look at that. It's all color coded and go, we're doing great. Or there's a trend, right? Like what's causing that trend? Why is that not hitting target this quarter?
Well, yeah, and that's where you get everybody's buy-in, right? So like, okay, how should we be growing and scaling? And then are people each doing their respective jobs? Now, my experience, Jamie, is when you do an EOS implementation, sometimes part of that exercise is getting the right people on the bus, and then getting the right people in the right seats on the bus. Was there any scrambling that you had to do in your EOS implementation?
Yeah, in 2017, when we first implemented, we did have a few people exit the bus, so to speak, and just say, yeah, this isn't for me, and we said, great.
Right.
You don't like accountability? Perfect.
We're going to release you to find the right place because this isn't it. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was a blessing in a sense that it just really created clarity around who belonged and who did not. The most recent, like I say, when hiring the implementer last year, it's been really good. I think everyone's really stepped up and appreciates the accountability because we do have the right people in the right seats. Largely just they can see a vision forward. They can see where we want to go. They can see how their actions carry us forward to that direction. So yeah, it's been great. Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like the bottom up, right? You're like, or actually top down, but yeah, it's like, hey, here's a big vision. And then everybody understands what their piece of it is, and it creates perfect accountability. Right. So
yeah, there's no hiding from the numbers, right? The scorecard just shows it. Did you sign up a new client this week or didn't you? Right? It's not a good or bad. It's did you or didn't you?
Right. Right. No, that's it. Right. It's just, and what do we need to do to course correct, right? You get your leaders together, right? And, hey, what are the problems? What are the challenges? And then we troubleshoot. Now, that takes a certain amount of vulnerability and transparency, Jamie, because, there's just some people, you say, well, hey, we have a problem. They're like, if it happens to be that rain cloud hanging over their head, they get a little defensive. Like, how'd you tackle that kind of stuff?
Like I say, I think just not making it personal. And the scorecard that, as part of EOS just really, really does that and just says, hey, like, sure, you can have a bad week. You have 2 bad weeks, even 3 bad weeks. But, if you have 4 or 5 weeks where you're not adding new clients, right, you're not getting your properties rented, let's find out what's going on in your life.
Right.
It's you.
Right.
It's not,
we've triangulated the problem. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And, we completely revised our tech stack last year. And some of the tech we use is incredible. Like, it records every phone call, text message, email. So when we give somebody a new prospect, a lead, we can tell exactly whether they followed the script, did they follow the process. if they didn't, why didn't they? Oh, and you didn't follow it, and it didn't close. Oh, maybe you should follow it.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, right? So, we're a CPA firm in a production environment, and I just need a certain amount of volume work out of people. And because most of our team is remote, we have this software called Desk Time. And, it's not something we look at every day, but every once in a while, I'll start to look at those trends. We too have implemented EOS, and I'll look at my dashboard, and I'm like, well, that's an interesting one. Well, let's pull the desk time. And sure enough, right, it was like, well, hey, there's nothing that you could do in our world that doesn't involve you being on your computer. Even your phone's on your computer. So it's like, if you're not on your computer, you're not working.
You're not creating billable hours.
I'm telling you, right? It's just instant accountability. Like, hey, you send them the desk time report. It's just like, can you help me understand this? And then you have a little Teams call, and they're like, well, yeah, something's going on. I'm like, okay, that's I don't like surprises. You just let me know. But when are you gonna be back at it? So so it's just temporary or permanent, and just talk about it, right? Hey, this is what's going on. So no, I got you. So I too, a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, Rio Tahoe, past president. How long have you been part of EO, Jamie?
Since 2015. So it's coming up on 8 years, 7 years. Yeah. So,
and have you been to any of the global events yet?
Not yet. No, it was. EO has been an amazing source of support. When you talked about, it was 2011 a good time to be a property manager, it was. But Alberta is sort of Texas North, if you will.
Okay.
So oil prices crashed in 2015, right when I joined EO. And when oil prices crashed, everybody kind of fled the province. So our vacancy rate shot up, and it was those were challenging times for us. So yeah, just at that moment, didn't think gallivanting across the world would be great, and then took basically until the pandemic for our economy to recover. So yeah, I really haven't had much of an opportunity to take advantage of some of those global universities, but they all look incredible.
Yeah, well, it's fun, right? Because that's where one of the things that I've appreciated about EO is, if you're able to plug into some of that stuff, and it's probably not even the expense, it's just the time. But yeah, like I was a couple of years ago, I was in Italy at an event and it was just all about travel, right? So traveling with 120 business owners, all from all over the world. And I remember there was a moment we were in Rome on top of the Rome Museum. And they had and because in Rome you can't build higher than the Vatican. So the Vatican's the highest building in the city. So everything's flat, and then you have the Vatican sticking up, right? So Vatican City. Well, so we're on top of the museum so that we have actually a view over the entire city. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool, a kind of VIP thing, and then all of a sudden the sunset's going down behind the Vatican. It's like beautiful, and then all these opera singers come out, and I'm like, well, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'm just bawling, right? This is amazing. It's just so you put entrepreneurs make the world go around, and you put 120 of them together. Oh my gosh, it's amazing what you could see, what you can do, and just how you had different ways of looking at the world. I met a gentleman and his wife. They were from the San Jose chapter, San Jose, California, and he was a learning chair. I was talking about my business brokerage stuff and buying and selling businesses. So he had me come speak to his chapter about how all that works, and so it's just. Yeah, so you meet people, and then you have friends across the world, and then when you're in their neck of the world, you got a place to stay. It's great,
Amazing connectivity, yeah.
Right. So it is something, right? Because when as business owners, for you business owners out there, it gets a shameless plug for Entrepreneurs Organization, but you need your people, man. I think that's if you're a business owner, like when in 15, Jamie, when all of a sudden you go through your recession and vacancies go up, and at that time you had a bunch of employees. Do you tell your employees, hey guys, we're getting a little tight on payroll? Can I skip a check or two? That's a good way to get people to quit, right? You can't have that conversation. You can't go home. Hey, honey, I just took out $40,000 line of credit to cover payroll. Hopefully that's okay, right? Don't stress her out. So you just who are you going to talk about this stuff to?
Well, exactly. Just incredible support network. And even when things aren't going wrong, there's nothing going wrong, they just re-energize. Like that monthly forum meeting, that monthly meeting that you have with your network just re-energizes me. It's like a instant recharge to the batteries. And
well, yeah, and that's what you think about time, right? So you're like, oh my gosh, 4 hours, I got all this stuff to do. And you're like, yeah, and you're just like completely locked in and like, okay, solving all the world's problems. And then you find out your life's a little bit better because of it. So speaking of being better because of it, when we come back, Jamie Palmer is going to tell us the number one thing you need to know before opening a business in frigid Calgary. When we come back, it's Bosma on Business, News Talk 780 KOH. Welcome back to Bosma on Business. Your host, Mike Bosma. If you need some help in either accounting, tax, business brokerage, or anything business related, give me a call, 775-786-4900, mbosma at keystone.cpa on the phone. Jamie Palmer from Power Properties, business broker in Calgary, Canada. Jamie, we leave our listeners with that number one thing, the big aha, the big takeaway. I just want to know, before you buy the business from your dad, what do you wish you would have known for the benefit of our listeners? What's the big thing? Gosh, if I had only known that, it did have been better.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier, but definitely having that transition plan in place before I spent the time helping to grow the business, because that really did impact the valuation. So yeah, just having that lined up in advance and deciding how you're going to account for or pay for the increase in growth and revenue while you're working in the business for your family. Right. That was game changing.
Yeah, and I think
would have been.
Yeah, and I think for any time that you're selling a business from to a strategic buyer, that is somebody either in your family or that works for you. Clarity is just, and I think for you business owners out there, as you're thinking about, hey, I'm going to die in this chair. There's no need to. A lot of times there's, a lot of, in fact, I'd say almost all buyers really want, now, Jamie, your dad was an exception, but most people would say, hey, we're going to find, you an office and something to do to be around, and we're just going to shift responsibilities. And then I have this adult grown-up conversation with all the parties in the room to say, okay, and Mr. Buyer, you're going to respect the seller and everything they did to get the company here. And so, we're not going to trash talk them about, well, that was stupid, whatever. No, we're not going to do it. We're just going to say how great it is. And then when the seller, we tell them that all you want is rainbows and unicorns for the buyer and that they're going to run it way better than you ever could or did. And you're going to be happy for their success, right? And we just repeat this. It's our mantra. So when people realize that's the stupidest I ever did. You're just like, no, remember what we said. We only wish them good things. It makes it better, right? But that way, having a firm exit plan is good for everybody. And I will tell you, I think probably the mistake most business owners make is they have a date in mind when they want to retire, and then health, finance, it's never the right time. You got to sell your business when it's the right time to sell your business, brothers. That's what you got to do. And then you can figure out something else to do. That's not the business. Sell it at the right time. Like you mentioned, Jamie, you're like, well, I'm only 45 years old. Like, maybe there's an inflection point where you just get to the right size, and sometimes I have people, they'll hire somebody to replace you, Jamie, and then they just, they make whatever they're making less whatever they're paying that person, and that's a pretty good life, and then they just have complete freedom. It sounds like you got a pretty good track already, but you can invent whatever you want. And I think that's a lot of times for business owners, sometimes you just need to dream a little bit. Like, what could this be? And how could you make this business so that you're not at the center of it? It is potentially a game changer, because most people that are buying, and believe me, I talk to them every day, most people that are buying, they don't want to have to run the forklift. It's just not their jam. They would rather not. Thank you very much. So that's where I think it's incumbent on us to be able to create a system. That's what EOS is, a great one. I'm also a fan of Trainual. as a way to house all that standard operating procedures or SOPs. So it's a system, it's a process, and we can help. So Jamie, thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey. Hopefully we'll connect up maybe as you're traveling or all traveling, and maybe have an adult beverage and kind of share some of that entrepreneurial journey. So, but thank you. And if you have anything that's newsworthy, maybe once you expand out of the province, let's get you back on and talk about how that went. Until next week, business owners, keep that business engine humming. We call it Bosma On Business. News Talk 780 KOH.
The Rolling Stone Music Now podcast gets inside the biggest stories with Rolling Stone senior writer Brian Hyatt.
Now here is my conversation with Jacob Knoll. Your story is an amazing one, and obviously you lost your dad when you were only 1 year old.
It was definitely a screwy way to grow up. I think that a lot of people never heard of who I am, and then they see me joining this band, and they must think this kid must have just been handed everything, or nepotism kid. It's a gift that I have an opportunity to sing in such a big band like my father and my uncle's band, Sublime.
Rolling Stone Music Now, wherever you listen.